I'm gonna lie. Wow. You guys come over here. Yeah.
Welcome to the Advancing the Kingdom podcast. We're streaming live on all social media platforms and podcast streaming channels. Get ready for a revelatory teaching from our apostle, Matthew Tillery.
Well, praise the Lord. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Advancing the Kingdom podcast. I am your host tonight, Matt Tillery. I greatly appreciate you. Listen, I know you are excited about this day. This is the month of 9 September, and isn't it awesome? And we should be grateful that the Lord has allowed us to move over into the 9th month. So I'm excited about September. I'm excited just to actually be here and enjoy what the Lord is doing in the earth. Listen, if you're over on Facebook, I would greatly appreciate it if you could go ahead and hit the share button. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the ML Tillery Outreach over on YouTube. And those that will be listening by through all the podcast channels, we certainly thank God for you. Thank you for all the downloads, and thank you for your great support on the Advancing the Kingdom podcast. We are getting great responses, and we're just very grateful for that. Listen, tonight, or this month, rather, the month of September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. So we're going to be promoting early screening, prostate health education, as well as bringing on different men that's been dealing with certain things in terms of prostate cancer, or maybe some other things that's happening with their prostate. Last week we had Dr. Denise Gooch on out of Maryland, and radiation oncologist, and just she shared a wealth of knowledge to us, and we're just very grateful for her. And she will be back also this month on the 4th Monday. So listen, let's go ahead and jump right into this podcast tonight. Let's jump right into this conversation piece tonight. And tonight my guest is Mr. Darelle Joiner. He is a law enforcement manager with the Department of Treasury, as well as a certified trainer, helping men over 40, that would be me, to get fit. He is also an advocate for prostate health. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you for so much coming on the Advancing the Kingdom podcast tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, sir. Great.
Well, let's go ahead and have a conversation. You were misdiagnosed for prostate cancer a while back.
Yes.
Tell us about that, because I know when I got the news that I had prostate cancer a few years ago, it was very devastating. It was mentally, it was draining, and so forth and so on. So tell us about that piece.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the opportunity again, and thank you to all the guests that are listening as well. Matt, if I could just kind of rewind the clock a little bit right before I got to that part, because I think it's important for me to share the journey as to how I got to that state, or that stage, so to speak. And so for me, it just like I'm hearing from most men, a lot of men now that I'm meeting and encountering, it just really happened like out of the sudden. I didn't see it coming. With that, what I'm talking about is I had what they call complete urinary retention. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I actually was at the gym doing what I love to do, working out, drinking plenty of water. I went to the bathroom, tried to relieve myself, and nothing came out.
Wow.
And so I went home in a panic and shared that information with my wife, and she tried to calm me down and just suggested I go to a private place in the basement, my own personal bathroom, and just try to relax, drank some tea, drank some coffee, the things that normally would make me relieve myself, and it wasn't working. And unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, and I don't recommend this to anybody, but I sat there for about 17 hours.
Wow.
I came for about 17 hours, up and down, trying to move, shake around, seeing if anything could come out. And I was getting scared. I noticed a bulge in my stomach started to push out because my bladder was absolutely full. And I can't can't undermine the pain, the amount of pain that I was in. It was just incredible. I mean, I couldn't bear it anymore. By the time we called 911, after talking to my doc, who said, hey, you need to get to the hospital to get an emergency catheter put in to relieve you before your bladder explode, I couldn't move. I had to get the paramedic to get in here to actually help me off the toilet, put me onto the stretcher, take me slowly as I'm in agonizing pain because every bump agitated it. And I get into the hospital. They did as quickly as they could. It took about 30 minutes to intake, and they put that catheter in, which is, just nothing that any man wants to go through.
Right.
And from there, I was told that I was at the beginning of the learning that I had some issues with either my bladder or my prostate. They didn't know. They just wanted to relieve me of that fluid. So I think 2 days later, I went to see the first urologist, and this urologist had some film on me, so to speak. I should say just a record, because about a year before that, I was entering back into law enforcement, and I had to take a physical, which is actually where I learned I had an enlarged prostate.
Right.
And the doc didn't really want to do much other than just suggest a biopsy. He just felt that he said, hey, I don't feel any nodules or anything like that. Do a biopsy. And that's important because I want to come back and talk about that. I didn't do a biopsy at that time. He just said, well, just figure it out, work it out. He didn't make any suggestions for any medication or any of those things. So when I went to see the urologist after having this piece, he asked me, why didn't I do a biopsy some time ago? I'm thinking about right now I have an issue. I can't urinate. This is the issue. I know we want to find out if it's cancer.
Right.
Right now, I need help with trying to relieve myself.
Right.
And so it took about 3 or 4 different appointments with 3 or 4 different urologists from the same team, all just really pushing this biopsy. And I just I'm thinking, why are we just focused on a biopsy? What are we going to do about this? Right. And they started to begin talking about different procedures, and they talked about one called a TURP, T-U-R-P, a transurethral resection of the prostate. It's for benign hyperplasia prostatic, so which is BPH, right, which is an enlarged prostate. And then I said, okay, well, if that's the case, it sounds like it's good to go if you don't have cancer. We said, but we have to do this biopsy. So I finally did the biopsy, and I can just tell you, and I'm sure you've been there, it just was a very emotional, spiritual experience for me, right? And I just, I was emotional, but I was also thanking God that I had the resources and I was able to get a biopsy. I was just thankful, right? And right. Just like you say, getting back to the day when I actually got the news about 10 days later, it was like a job announcement of a promotion. It was a Friday. I was the last patient. The clinic was completely empty, and it was just the doctor, myself, and my wife.
Wow.
And he came in, and I just started to look at him, and he said, hey, I got some good news, and I got some kind of bad news. And he started off by saying out of the 12 samples, 11 of them came back pretty good. 1 came back not so good. And he said, so we have what we call low-grade prostate cancer. And so when I heard it, I can't say that I was completely devastated, because I think, my faith is strong, and you have to understand that I'm a product of foster care and group homes. I've experienced nothing but bad on bad on bad. And so I kind of felt like I was battle tested and prepared for this, right? And I was more upset at myself. How did I allow myself to get to this place where I'm a personal trainer for 30 plus years? I try to eat right, do things right, but I apparently was just not doing just good enough. And so I took that information right there at that moment. It didn't really hit me until maybe 2 or 3 days later, because my mom passed from cancer. I've seen so many people pass from cancer. And I just said, I'm not going to allow the devil to get into my head to start thinking that this is what's about to take me out.
Right.
And so it did the opposite for me. It made me start doing research.
Right.
Research I started doing was just looking deeper. And they started pushing this TURP. And I said, well, I questioned. I said, why would I do a TURP procedure when it's for benign prostate cancer? And so I don't want to do surgery if you tell me I have cancer. Let's talk about some other options. How bad is it? And then because I started advocating for myself and asking other brothers that I know who've had cancer, who currently have cancer, who've had their prostates removed, I started learning that, hey, did they do an MRI? Did they do any imaging? And I said, no. They said, oh, that don't make sense, because they should do imaging today. We have enough advancement in technology and medicine that when they do imaging, they can see the hot spots, and then that's where they go biopsy. And so I became really irritated, and I actually went back and talked to the doc who did it, and I was fussing, and I just said, why wouldn't we do imaging? So we did a blind biopsy. We really don't know how much is in there.
Right.
He still want to do surgery. And he immediately folded and said, hey, it wasn't my call. If you were my patient, I would have definitely done it. And so at that point, I was just furious. I was furious. And so what went from a month ended up being 6 months of wearing a catheter back and forth, getting everything you can imagine done as far as examinations and things like that, and cystoscopy, microscopes of the penis, sonograms up the rectum, all those things, to the point where I just got so frustrated, and my wife just said, "Hey, let's try Johns Hopkins again." Right. And through prayer, well-renowned surgeon, Dr. Arthur Burnett, who I tried to reach out to, who'd always is 6 months in advance, booked. And his secretary just happened to say, "Hey, we got an appointment next Monday. Can you come in?" And I tell you, that was the beginning of the change. But, the news, back to your question, it hit me pretty hard, but it didn't land and stick with me because I'm one of those people that I've been able to handle chaos my whole life, working in law enforcement, crisis management. I'm one of those guys that run into chaos and deal with it and help people. And so I think I did the same thing for myself. And I'm just grateful that God built me that way. And I was able to handle, because I know a lot of folks, when they get that information, it's devastating. It just paralyzes people.
Right,
but,
right.
I say by the grace of God and everybody else that was praying for me, I did pretty good so far.
Wow. Yeah, that's very powerful. And you and I, we really have a similar story because my mom passed from cancer as well. Yeah. Matter of fact, 2 weeks after I actually did her funeral, the eulogy, and 2 weeks after I was, they said you have prostate cancer. Yeah. So for me mentally, it wasn't where I couldn't move or couldn't do anything. I kept on going, kept on doing what I needed to do, and I basically did what you talked about earlier, educating yourself and getting information and what is the, not just settling for what they're saying, right? But let's investigate a little bit. Let's be our own advocate, right? And investigate some more. And that's basically what I did. So, and that's what I say to a lot of men that, they may tell you this and that, but listen, you have to be your own advocate. And you have to educate yourself and what's going to be best for you.
Yeah, not only do you have to educate yourself on it and be an advocate, but you got to dig deeper and even into the background of the doctors and the surgeons, because they are specialists in particular areas. And so for this procedure that I ended up doing, I ended up with just one of the best in the world, Dr. Burnett, who actually does the TURP. That's exactly what he does. And some of these other doctors who was considering doing it, when I looked into what they did, said nothing about the TURP. It was just whether it's green light or different procedures or hormone, et cetera, but they were offering me the TURP. And so I was just especially grateful for that as well. But I mean, it's I can see how men don't know what to do. I just spoke with a brother the other day. Once a friend of mine, a neutral friend, learned that I was going through whatever, and he said, "Hey, can you talk to a buddy of mine? He just got a catheter put in a few days ago." And when I spoke with him, I can hear that lost sound. He don't know what to do. He's waiting for a phone call from the doctors, and he said how hard it is. I know he's very uncomfortable because, trust me, I wore that catheter for 6 months, and I had 13 of them taken in and out because you get urinary tract infections and all those things. Right. And so I just gave him some relief by saying, "Hey, you got a friend here. You're in this for yourself, but you're not by yourself. I'll go to the doctor with you. I'll be on the phone with you. I know what questions to ask now because they don't really give you that information. They just leave it there for you." And so for me, I'm speaking for my situation. I had a team of doctors that just was not on point and on par at the beginning, and I had to switch urology clinics. I thank God for that. But I'm also thankful for the mishaps because I learned so much that I can now educate brothers on what to look for, what to ask, and all those different things because it's super important. I mean, and I hate to say this because I don't want to think of, the medical community answers because I have a daughter who's going into medicine that it's a money pit too. Some people are more focused on the money. And so when I looked up that biopsy and I looked at the cost of the biopsy, I said, no wonder they pushed me for the biopsy because they profit share. And had I done what was suggested from the other doctors, which is the MRI first, more than likely would have came back and said no biopsy needed. That means they don't get paid. Right. And that's just my opinion. I mean, don't hold me to this, but that's just my opinion when I looked at it because there was no excuse as to why they just kept saying, get a biopsy, without ever. I saw 5 different urologists from the same clinic. Not one at one time ever said, let's get an MRI and take a look at what you got going on.
Wow. No, you're absolutely right. Once again, we have to, you talked about digging deeper, and that's what I did. I had to dig deeper. They gave me 3 options, and really 2 of them was surgically out because I actually had prostate cancer. So one of the options was don't do anything. We're just going to watch it, right? We're just going to watch it. So, and the other option was to have your prostate removed. So those 2 for me wasn't even on the table as an option. And that's when I started to dig deeper in terms of what is it that I think would best benefit me, have conversations with the doctors. So I chose proton therapy out of Hampton, Virginia.
Oh, wow, okay. That's definitely something I've heard of, and I know a few people that's done it as well, and they've had some great success with that.
Yeah.
And even for me, once I did decide to move forward with the TERP with Dr. Burnett, I still was under the impression that I had prostate cancer.
Right.
It wasn't until after I had the surgery when you wake up, you're there for 24 to 48 hours. You're not going to sleep because every hour they're coming in, flushing
Right.
blood or what have you. And I just started looking through my chart, looking at all the different, blood abnormalities and different things that I had going on. And I saw my files from the other clinic and I just kept ignoring it.
Right.
Finally said, let me take a look at this. And what I learned from that was the pathology report that I did from the other clinic was there, but it was the pathologist from John Hopkins said, we totally disagree with this. This is not prostate cancer. This is just inflammation, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the moment I learned that I didn't have prostate cancer. And then when I saw the doctors the next day, they absolutely confirmed, no, you don't have prostate cancer, it's just inflammation. As if they never saw it as prostate cancer, but I didn't know that. But the other team of doctors never said this to me. And to take it a step further, I then learned, and this is, you've got to do deeper research,
Right.
that they actually took that, and I don't want to call the name out, but it's a very reputable name that is just, they kind of do everything, but they don't do anything. That's when you know they're not specific, because we know you get terrific when you do specific stuff.
Right.
And they farmed my pathology report out to probably one of the cheapest, groups out there, and who came back and said it was prostate cancer. And when I backtrack and look at it and think about everything, I can actually remember the doc who told me. He seemed frustrated with even telling me that because he probably didn't believe it. And that just makes me believe it's more of a profit share, like he had to go with it. And he actually, like I said, told me, hey, if you were my guy, I certainly wouldn't have taken you down this path. But by the time I got you, it was time to do a biopsy.
Right. Yeah. And that's really crazy because what if you didn't have that, not seeking more information and not just, being your own advocate and so forth, then you settle for what they told you and you get your prostate. So, man, I just want this thing out of me because I have prostate cancer. I don't want my prostate in me, right? And you get your entire prostate removed. So, a lot of crazy things could have went on. But,
Absolutely.
Yes, but I'm grateful that, you pushed this thing a little further. Now, once again, so in terms of the mental piece, you talked about how your career and a lot of other things in your life has prepared you for that, which is great. But everybody is not prepared for that. So, what would you say to those men that maybe they're just listening tonight and hey, they found out that they have prostate cancer? What would you say to that man tonight?
I definitely would say, lock arms with someone and open up and share that information, right? And because, I talk to anybody I see that has a mouth and ears about this, especially a black man, right? And I'm talking about at a gas station. I have a certain way of being able to have a conversation with people and share what I've gone through. And next thing you know, they say, hey, I'm going through this now. And so I would say for a man that's just learning about it, don't keep it to yourself. That's the worst thing you can do is keep it to yourself because you're not going to explode, but you're going to implode. It's on inside you and it's just burning you up and you're embarrassed, you're scared, you're nervous. But there is a solution for you. And like I tell everybody, we tend to think that we're in this by ourselves, but you're never by yourself. You're in it for yourself, but never by yourself. And so the moment you tell one person, that one person is going to find another person. If he's not the person. And I think that it just starts, man. And I think that, you're doing God's work because we're all about sharing information. And he knows that's what's going to help us, get through things because it's very tough and difficult just to have that and still, maintain life, whether you're a husband, you're a father, you got a job, all those things on your plate. And so I think you have to just definitely open up. And today we have technology. You can keyword search prostate groups, brotherhood groups, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many everywhere you look on social media, you'll be able to find it. But I definitely would open up and find out because I've seen so many people that I would have never imagined, going through this, that are going through this. And so I'm one of those guys. I'm not afraid to be vulnerable. I'm not afraid to be transparent. I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm excited by, something that God has taken me through, allowed me to get through, to be able to share it because I believe it's my gift is to be given away. The gift that we have, I don't believe it's for ourselves. And I think you would die with it within you and you're not doing this work. It's just my personal belief. And so I think anybody that's going through something like that, just like me, open your mouth and talk to people. And next thing you know, you'll find out more information. Because had I not called those 2 or 3 guys, I would have never learned about the MRI.
Right.
I would have never learned about imaging and all those things. And so I'm grateful that I did. And I was scared, but I called a few people that I knew had suffered from this. I called the first guy I knew, who, good friend of mine, Stan Richards, who in 2015, I didn't even really know what the prostate was. I didn't pay attention to it. But I know he had his removed, and I know he's been an advocate for it since then, and he's talked about it. And so he was the first guy who actually said, hey, call my guy, Dr. Burnett. I just couldn't get in because he was so, popular, what have you. But I would highly recommend that they reach out or find somebody that they can talk to.
Yeah, so that, you on your bio, you talk about having a strong support network when it comes to men's health. How important is that to you?
Well, it's super important. I have a framework that I call fitness, right? And even though I'm in fitness, it's an acronym that I talk about these 7 key connectors that you need to be fit. And it's the word fitness, but the first letter, which is F, is faith. Right. And so while you believing in yourself and believing that you can achieve whatever it is you're setting out to do, whatever these goals, that's not going to work. So that's number 1, step 1. Step 2 is integrity, right? Having great integrity, which is staying true to what you believe in, doing the right thing when no one's watching, et cetera, is super important, because it's going to be days by yourself, days that you got to do it anyway and show up for yourself. The T is trust. Got to trust the process, right? We're going to be bad before good and good to be great. You got to go through the process.
Got to trust the process.
Got to trust the process. Look, and I tell people all the time, when my muscles is popping, didn't happen overnight. It happened that night, but it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't certainly last night. It's a lot of nights, but trust the process. and I remind people that you've done it before in other areas of your life. It's just now you want to switch gears and put it here, right?
Right.
And that's having great discipline. The N is nurturing, right? And sometimes there won't be anyone around to love on you. So love on yourself. Learn how to love on yourself, and then also love on somebody else, especially when you're going through something. Help somebody else. That is one of the best relievers that make you feel good, when you can help somebody else, even though you're the one that need help. It's just something about nurturing. The E is education. Continue to grow with that education. Continue to learn. Continue to seek it. Continue to surround yourself around it. To continue to get in different rooms with people who are smarter than you and all those things in all areas. Right. And then the first S is self-awareness. Because at that point, when you get there, you kind of understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? And so definitely move on those strengths, but also appreciate the weaknesses and areas that you can also just go out and get some help or what have you. And the last one is back to your point, which I think is just as important as the first one. The final S is support. Plug into the support system. You got to have a support system. And even me as a 30+ year personal trainer, I have a personal trainer. I want help too. My gift is not for me. My gift is to be shared, just like I talked about before. But I need that constant pouring into me as well. Somebody to hold me accountable as well, because my gift is holding everybody else accountable. And so I think, I've learned that men, we're so good in other areas, but we forget about ourselves, especially when it comes to taking care of our bodies. A lot of guys don't go to the doc, don't go to the dentist, don't tell people about what's going on. So that's why when I have a book that's coming out, the Prostate Playbook, when I wrote the book, I wasn't just thinking about the men, I was thinking about the women, because women are going to see these signs just as fast as men will. And they can pay attention to them as well. And I want the ladies to see this and then, hey, push your guy to go to the doctor. What's going on? And so, and again, I'm very transparent about, things was different. I wasn't paying attention to those signs that was happening. I knew for a fact that my erections wasn't as hard as they used to be back when I was younger. I didn't know that it was related to the prostate. I knew that my pee stream was getting a little weaker. And one that I just learned was I thought I was constipated, but my prostate had grown so large that it was in the way of my stool coming out. And I can say all these things now because since having this procedure, everything's gone. Everything's back.
Praise God.
1,000% better.
Praise the Lord.
Like those little things I kept saying, oh, maybe I need to drink some more water, trying to self-diagnose as opposed to taking my butt to the doctor. Find out, right? And so a lot of guys I know are out here doing that.
Why do you think men are afraid? Why do you think we are afraid to go to the doctor? Because a lot of us are. I'm not, but a lot of men are.
It's crazy because I never thought that I would be this guy because I've had so much bad information in my life. I flunked grades in school. I've been fired from a job. I've been divorced. I mean, everything has happened, and I just never thought that I'd be the guy that don't want to go to the doctor to see some guy tell you something is wrong.
Right.
And so it's crazy because we have all this strong muscle and we're brave in other areas, but we don't want to go to the doctor and find out something's wrong with us, especially on the inside.
Right.
Right. And I have yet to figure that out, but I'm working on it and I'm just pushing guys. And that's why I'm being so transparent about the things that has happened to me, and how it has affected me. And I want to help just be proactive and preventative for men. So you don't have to go through this. You don't want to wear that bag on the side of your line with a catheter this long in and out of your penis or what have you. And so if I can do anything, I try. It's something I always tell people. I try to scare you fit.
Right.
Or scared straight, where I want to scare you fit. Make good decisions or what have you.
Right. Well, look, man, I'd love for you to come back when you get your book out.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, you don't have to wait then. I mean, you can come just whenever you want to come on. Just let me know. Some powerful stuff. Certainly a powerful testimony, and really just how God has preserved you, and it's all for a purpose. The Bible says that all things are working together for our good. So, and to them that love Him, who was called according to His purpose. So and I believe everybody has a purpose, but so many folk have not found it. But I'm pretty confident that you are getting ready to walk into something greater in terms of your purpose.
I appreciate it, and I definitely received that. And I look forward to coming back as well. The book is done. I'm just going through the final pieces with the publisher to get it out. And again, it's the Prostate Playbook, What Every Man Needs to Know. And it's me sharing my journey and just me sharing information as to what I think, men need to do as it relates to just empowering them about men's health and understanding the differences like when you open up the show, not just prostate cancer, but you got, BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is enlarged prostates, and even prostatitis, where it's inflamed, all those different things that you need to be aware of. And one thing that I do now, and I'm telling brothers, especially brothers, because I know they lower the age to 40, there's no way in the world that I believe my prostate, I'm 53 now, from the age of 40 grew to the size of a small orange, or just basically an orange, like a size here. And so I'm going to back it up and say 30, 35.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about a PSA. I'm talking about a digital rectal exam where they put in your hand up your rectum, rather speak, and being able to feel that it's enlarged, because you're not going to get that information from just a blood test.
Right.
And so I think fear, when it comes to that, I hear a lot of guys joking. They don't want to get a colonoscopy. They don't want to get a prostate exam because they have this great fear. And I tell you what, if you had to go through what I had to go through, you'd be in line quicker than you can imagine.
Wouldn't be hesitating, right? Absolutely.
No hesitation at all. Sure.
Man, I really enjoyed this conversation tonight. Is there anything else you want to share with us on tonight?
I just want to make, men aware that, like I started off by saying before, man, we're in this for ourselves, but we're never by ourselves. Lock arms with brothers and just continue to support each other and be a community with each other. I think with God, we can do anything, of course, but I think that also He's given us an ability just to lock arms together, and we're stronger together. I tell people all the time, your muscles are stronger together. You don't have to just use one. They're all interconnected. And when you learn how to use them all together, that bench press is stronger, that squat is stronger. And so the same thing when you're going through a problem, we're stronger together. And so I just want men to really get that, so we can be around, we can last, we can support our families, we can lead our children and protect our wives. And so we need to make sure that we are, getting this information, continue to seek this information, and continue to seek God, the kingdom, and turn brothers to it. And that's one thing that I didn't get to talk about for sure, but definitely my past 3 years, I finished up a course called BID, Brothers in Discipleship, and I'm just grateful for what I've learned in the last 3 years, and being able to sit down and be disciplined and learn about just becoming a disciple, getting out here to people about God, and just loving on them about God. And so I'm just grateful for that. Wow. But my message is lock arms and let's just be strong together.
Amen. Hey, man, I enjoyed this conversation once again. Just thank you so much for just sharing, really sharing your heartbeat, and also your concern for other men. We want to live a long life, and I think going to the doctor, getting checked, when we need to go get checked is very vital. It's very important. So once again, man, we'll look at some more dates to bring you on to talk about, and it's going to be real soon because I want to get you back on real soon. So I'm just grateful for you. Listen, Mr. Darelle Joiner is here with us tonight. I'm excited that he has come on the Advancing the Kingdom podcast. Man, I really appreciate you tonight.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, listen, if you're over on Facebook, I would greatly appreciate it if you could hit the share button. And if you're over on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the ML Tillery Outreach. I would greatly appreciate that as well. Listen, once again, it's been a great podcast tonight, talking to Mr. Darelle Joiner. Just some great stuff tonight. I just ask God that he will continue to bless you in everything that he's called you to do in the earth, that God will fulfill the purpose that he has and the purposes that he has on the inside of you. So keep going, man. You're doing some great things. God is not done with you yet.
Thank you so much, sir. And I wish you continued blessings as well. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Listen, I'm Apostle Matt Tillery, or Matt Tillery. Until next Monday night at 7 p.m., go and advance the kingdom.
We pray you have been empowered and blessed by this teaching. Join us next week for the Advancing the Kingdom podcast. If you would like to reach us, email us at mltillery@icloud.com.